Good morning, everyone. You are listening to Blue Collar Tribe Podcast. I'm your host, Splash. I am here in studio, and I have a guest host that is a little out of the way, and I am super excited for this. How are you doing this morning, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thanks
Good,
for having me on, Splash.
No, it's awesome. This literally podcast is being recorded with no notice. I text Chris like 40 minutes ago, like, "Hey, dude, do you have an hour? I want to talk about something." So this podcast is extremely important to me. As someone who was a contractor, I still consider myself a contractor as I'm licensed. I'm just not practicing as a contractor for my own mental health reasons, which we'll get into. But my big thing about this is social media is ruining your business. So whether you are a contractor or not, if you're on social media, this podcast is geared towards you. So the reason I brought you on, Chris, is one, I absolutely respect your decision. One thing I've learned as I've gotten older is there's a lot of people in this world that will just agree with you. Then there's people like you that say, "Hey, let's conversate about it." You are a conversationalist, and you also bring a different perspective that I think the audience and those may say, "Oh, wow, I never thought about that." Because for you and me, I think about that all the time. Like, wow, this is so different. This is weird, you know? So, but the conversation is this. I saw a post, and I see these all the time, where contractors who are not contractors anymore, or they're very lightly in the contractor space, are on social media talking about, you need to have a coach, you need to be implementing all these systems, you need to be making 7 figures, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Now, you and I have joked about this. You do know that one of my least favorite words in the dictionary is should. You shouldn't should on anybody.
No. Don't shit on anybody.
Don't shit on anybody. But the main reason why I bring this up is simply this. How do I say this? When you're a new contractor and you see these posts, I believe it brings a lot of fake hope. A lot. Mm-hmm. Because what these cats are doing, and this podcast is not to sit and shit on everybody. This is to bring awareness. So I just want this to be very clear. I know some of these guys are going to listen and be like, dude, I'm not calling you out personally. I'm calling you out as a whole. You guys are leading a lot of people fake. Like, let's be real. It is hard waking up in the morning and going to a job, right? Like, you wake up, you go to a job, Chris. Like, you have places you need to be. You have appointments. I know in your prior works, you've had a schedule you've had to do. Like, that's hard as just a human, right?
Yeah.
It's not something.
Humaning is hard.
Humaning is hard. Then let's add on, you get this wild hair that you're going to be a business owner. You're like, hey, I can do this. I was a carpenter for 5 years. I know what I'm doing. I could go make more money, and I'm proud of you. So then you make that decision, you get licensed, insured, all the things. But along that way, you forget a lot about what you were doing, and your personality changes because you gain an ego of like, I can do this, which is, you need to be confident, but there's a huge difference in being confident and having an ego. With that being said, you talk to a lot of us business owners. You've seen the conversations. You've been in the conversations. I mean, I hope this is okay, but you've worked with PCA, specifically painters. Like, you've seen them go through. And you're a smart cat. Like, you see through the bullshit, don't you? You see them struggle.
Some of it. I don't see through my own, probably.
No, we never see through our own, though.
But I hope we get smarter as we get older and wiser and more experienced and seasoned, if you will.
Yeah.
But
when you see these guys walk to PCA, I mean, that's when I first met you. When you see these guys walk through PCA, the painters specifically, not the ones that are there to talk or the ones that have a booth, but these painters, they're eager, they're hungry.
Yeah.
And I love that. But when you jump on social media as a business owner and you're seeing all these other contractors saying, if you're not making 6 figures, you're not running your business right. If you're not, it's all these things that you should be doing. You're not doing this. And I feel it's a complete disservice to the men and women who are either new business owners or existing, because we fucking started a business because we want to be wealthy with money. Let's not call it out. Like, that's why you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
But you forget a lot.
Mhm.
And one of my biggest hiccups in this, and I had this is what led to this conversation with you, is like, I had a guy reach out to me and he says, listen, dude, I have done everything this coach has told me to do. Everything. And this isn't the first person. I've paid X amount of money. I'm not getting anywhere. Like, what am I doing wrong, Splash? Like, what can you do to help me? And I'm like, okay, well, first, I'm not going to charge you. That's my own decision. Like, that's a personal thing, right now, because I know that he's already paid, I think it was at $1,200 a month paying this coach. And I'm like, okay, so I sat down and asked him, he's like, well, I'm doing 6 posts a day. I'm paying for, a marketing package, like $500 a month. And I had to reel it back. I said, well, where are you failing at then? Like, and that's a hard question to ask someone.
Right.
Because I think humanly we're like, wait, you just said I'm failing.
Right.
You're calling
Right.
me because you don't feel you're succeeding the way that you see success.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him that, and he didn't know. But then I asked him what success looked like to him.
Okay.
And he said, well, I want to do what you're doing. You're 40 something, you're retired. I said, look, my retirement is a way different situation than anyone else's. Like, don't. And it was that light bulb. I'm like, wow, these people are looking at social media and being like, I want that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you're on social media, you dabble. You're not on it nearly as much as I am.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
But what is your perspective of being in this industry with contractors, being around them? Do you have an opinion on it? Do you see where it could be hurting a business?
Yeah, well, for me, you're going to get somebody who's trying to be an observer of a lot of things happening. It's very complex. Humaning, as we've talked before, is sometimes very difficult. Conversation is super complex. So whenever humans are communicating to each other solutions and what their problems are, it's just very complex. It's hard enough to get your own hands around your own world, but to help other people get their hands around their world, it's very difficult. And imagine that's 2 people working for their own separate ideas of what the world should be. Now bring that together. Let's work on something together. It just exponentially becomes complex. So anyway, I try to go into that world with a little bit of humility and say, okay, a lot of things happening here. When you're talking, there's a lot of things coming up in my mind, Splash, about what's happening on social media with business coaches, with the essential problems of starting your own business and getting better at business and making the kind of money you want while not effing up your life. Those are all unique problems that could take a lifetime each to learn. So anyway, I'm gonna try to walk forward with a little humility here, but also just try to take a stab at saying what I think could be some of the simplification of the problem. I think a lot of business ownership is super hard. Most people fail. Statistically, most people fail. We already start with this idea. Well, you got to believe in yourself. You're going to succeed. You're going to make the money. Your family's going to be happy. That is not true. So that's the first myth we have to bust. You may not succeed. This may not be for you. Now, I don't hear anybody saying that. Like literally nobody, because that's not what people need to be fed. They need to be fed as much hope as they can. We need to turn them into believers, because if you can't believe for yourself, nobody can believe it for you. If you can't believe it's there, you're never going to make it happen. If there's a 10% chance, you got to almost believe it 100% to make that, to actualize that 10%. So we've got to turn people into believers, right? I mean, not real. That's what we're trying to do, turn everybody to believer.
Yeah.
These believers are now believing that they could be the best, and they could beat the best, and they could become rich, and they could do everything that the American dream promises. And then you have people seeing that. Oh my God, we have cultivated a whole nation of believers in so many different ways, but especially in business ownership. Guess who's going to cash in on that? Salesmen. There's nobody easier for a salesman than a believer.
Yep.
So we've got to catch 22 here. Like, you don't want people to believe less in their business or themselves, but all of a sudden now we say, we know what the risk with salespeople are. But now we're trying to tell people, hold up, don't believe everybody. Don't believe everything you hear. Now you have to condition your belief just a little bit. By the way, and I want to mention this before we move on, I just want to acknowledge one thing. We are teaching all of these business owners, anybody in education or sharing your knowledge, you're trying to teach other people how to sucker people in with your sales process in the same way you're being suckered in. And we're trying to teach you the guards to watch out for. Who's teaching your customers the guard? Nobody. You're hoping nobody. So you're investing in this whole scam, if you will. And so I just want to acknowledge there's a lot of moving pieces here, and we are all culpable to some degree. We're doing it to our own customers. That's how you run a business, right?
Yep.
But if you really want to open your eyes and get aware, see what's happening, know that you've been taken in already with businesses going to give me everything I ever wanted. It's going to be easy. It's going to look like this guy over here. And everybody who's selling something is trying to do something good for me, or they're more concerned about my business than theirs. That's not true at all. Okay. So with that as a foundation, I would just say with a lot of business coaching stuff out there, before you even get to social media as a hyper accelerated communication platform. So social media is truly just an anomaly of human communication.
Yeah.
And communication has all of its faults, but now they're accentuated and they're hypersonic and hyper speed in the social media world. But if you can understand what business coaching systems and software systems and tools are trying to do, they want to sell you on something. They need you as a customer. So that's one of their first things. Even if they don't have a product that you need, they want to sell you on it. But once they get you in, what I see across the board is people do want to see you successful, because then it becomes an ego thing. Then it becomes a reflection on their own success. Are my customers successful? So I do think they're going to try to make you as successful as you possibly be. I do think a lot of people have a better chance of being successful if you have people helping you. It's basically wiring your brain into another brain, into another brain, into another brain. Now, at some point, there could be a risk to that for sure. But wiring your brain into other brains could be helpful. So use systems that are out there, use tools that are out there. And if there's failures, as you mentioned, you got to be open and honest about that. You can't be so much of a believer that you can't recognize where you're going wrong, or you're never going to be able to course correct. So you have to keep your eye open. So you just got to condition your belief and your gullibility to keep your eyes open just a little bit. But yeah, are there people trying to scam you, take your money? Yeah. And I think they're known for what they're known for. That they're going to become slimy. They get a reputation. I'm thinking of the people that I know. Sometimes I will tell somebody like a Brandon Lewis, who has, I think, a coaching program that has helped a lot of people. But sometimes I'll say somewhat facetiously, Brandon, I love what you say, but I only believe at 80%.
Yeah.
And I'll say that almost just to kind of tell the audience and tell Brandon and tell myself that, like, hey, this sounds great, but is it really a fit for me and my environment? Is it really as simple as what it sounds? What other things could complicate it, or could, statistically, how successful is it? What's its trajectory really look like? Where's its flaws? We're not going to be told of all the flaws and all the struggles in the meantime that could break me, the ones I love. So anyway, I think you kind of have to say something like that to yourself when you come up to a tool or a resource or a person. Believe about 80%. Believe enough to try it. If you're in there and you're spending money, you got to try it. You got to put your all into it. But Be careful. Be careful. One last thing, and I want to keep this back to you because I'm sure that gave you a lot to think about. I was at the Pro Painter Network with Nick May, and we were creating education and a learning management system with roadmap to profit, whatnot. And we saw people coming through, and we could track what they were doing in the system. Most people, and I see this at Estimate Rocket too, they come into something, they're looking for a quick fix. They've been sold a lot of promises by then. They've tried a lot of things, Mm-hmm. So at this point, you kind of want to buy success. Like spending time learning, growing yourself, going the hard route, you think that's for some other chump. I bought this thing to fix my life. We're all very consumerist like that. And I remember tracking people going through Roadmap to Profit at the Pro Painter Network. And they would say, I did every component, I did everything, and it didn't work for me. I want my money back or whatever, which they always gave the money back. But we looked and tracked through, and I remember some individuals in particular, and they literally, if there was a 10-minute, 20-minute segment of things to watch, they would have spent 30 seconds in there, never went through the exercises to help you get good at what you were learning, and basically skipped total courses in there, and then went to the end and said, I tried all this. Now, it could be that they did a preliminary scan and said, I don't think I really need that. But once they were called on it, because Nick, at the time, he had a personal call. And he's like, look, hey, man, we got this tool. We could see if you really used it or not. And found out that he didn't, whatever. The guy was embarrassed. He's totally embarrassed. He says, you're right. I guess I'm looking for the quick fix still. and I'm going to actually go back through. I don't want my money back. I think he's just embarrassed that he was caught. But I think Nick, more than anything, he's like, I'm not interested in you being embarrassed or confident or whatever. I just want to know, do you need the help? If you do need it, why didn't you actually spend some time with it? Okay, so we see that at Estimate Rocket, about 20 people use about 20 to 30% of the full capabilities of Estimate Rocket. That's because it's a quick money makers when you first get in. In the long run, people like you've been here 5 years. We'll look at the long-term customers, and they still haven't significantly grown in their knowledge of what Estimate Rocket can do. And we've changed a lot and added new things. So there's added, like, you have to constantly be learning. You never finish that journey. But why aren't people spending the time? So I'm now concerned about that. It's a shared problem between the believers and the salespeople, and you have to fix kind of both of those things. You have to be careful how you vet the coaching and the sales process and the promises that you're being sold, like social media, whatever it is. And then you have to also look at yourself and say, what am I looking for here? Yeah. What's my real plan for success? Am I looking for am I wanting to pay somebody to solve my problems? So I just think that landscape helps kind of inform us on what's going wrong, what could be potential solutions. So what are your thoughts on there before? I don't want to dig too deep into one of those, but what do you think?
I wrote down a lot. No, I can see 100% where you're coming from with that. And one of the biggest things that sticks out is the 80%, but I'll start with this. You cannot buy success. You cannot buy your success.
Right.
You can buy the programs. I know the Nick May program you're talking about. I know the estimate. I looked at it. I didn't do them. Again, those that do know me know that, like, I had an ego, but also I work in an HOA community. So my business vision is different. I still get phone calls to go paint houses, where through a year, yes, I could bid. Now, mind you, there's a difference. Hear what I'm saying. I could bid $400,000 a year in exteriors and never work in the wintertime and just ice fish. But I had employees, so I didn't do that. But like that's different. I can't teach that because it's an HOA community, and then there's the marketing strategy that I can teach. But a lot of that is literally, who are you as a person, and do people like you? But one thing you said about the 80%, it's extremely smart. There is a reason why we all don't walk around at 195 pounds and are 6'2", because we're all different.
That's a good 195, by the way. It sounds like
it's a good 195.
Some people hear 190. What? That would be, but it depends on how high you are and what sex you are.
And I'll plow through you at 195 because I can get my speed up again.
Okay, yeah, you're thinking of the athlete.
It's the athlete in me. But when I say that, I want you to remember this, and I think that there's a lot of coaches. This is not like there's a coaching session here in Utah that I may go to, like all the ballers, the Garys, the Milettes, they're all here. They're all coming. And I'm like, hey, I'm probably going to go. But like, I think about it as like, when this guy reached out to me and I asked him, he couldn't answer what that question was. I said, well, I'm going to break it down for you from my perspective. I need to know what state you live in and what city. Those are the two things that were important to me. Then I researched them. And this is where I guess, like, when we're passionate about something, Chris, you know everything about it that you can. You've educated yourself to be able to speak on that. So this is where my education comes from, to be confident in this conversation. I said, look, you live in a town that has less than 100,000 people. For you to get to seven figures is extremely hard. I said, the market isn't there. It's a market-based thing. I have a roofing friend who makes, for his company, again, and he sent it to me. He sent me his taxes. He was at $1.2 million for 4 years now. He's in a hurricane city. It's insurance claims. So, of course, that's there. But if you live in Utah as a roofer, you making 1.5 is not realistic because we don't have hurricanes. The houses have to be built with the snow, and I'm using roofers as the example. Like, you have to have the pitch in a certain way. Like, things can't get marked off, so you have protection from your roof.
Mm.
And that kaleidoscopes through every trade. You have to understand your market. And there's a lot of coaches I'm friends with, and that's one of the conversations he and I arm wrestle about. Him and his wife own a company, and we're friends. And they're like, that doesn't matter. I said, it absolutely has to matter, because we're not the same people. What you're saying, I love I love how ahead of the game they are. But I told them, like you said, but in a different way, but I'll translate it what you said for the audience. Like, let them know that 80% of what you're teaching is accurate. You still, as a business owner, you need to take ownership still. You still have to have that. And that's the 20%. I'm going to use what you're saying.
You
The
have to,
20% is yours.
right.
You
Right.
can't put
It's
that
the
on them.
it's even more than that. Real. I mean,
It
if we're being
is. It
honest,
is.
like,
But what you're
somebody's
saying
selling you a
is
solution. The fit itself has to be at least half of the consideration. Is it a good fit? But yeah, it at the very least is what I'm. Instead of just giving yourself 100%, like, oh my gosh, that's the right thing. Everything's going to work. Just even if it's 100, scale it back to an 80. The just in case scaling,
yeah.
But really, it should be a lot lower than that. I mean,
It
we
should
look
be,
at
but I want to stick with the 80% because
right.
that makes
Sure.
sense. I'm going to walk in. It's like, I don't like to be religious on my podcast, but I'll put in a personal perspective from me. Whenever I've walked into a church, I always go in like, I'm going to listen to this. Scratch that. I do this with business meetings actually now. I do it with everything in my life. I'm going to walk in and listen to you because what you're saying is important. But I know that when I get up and leave that room, everything that you said is reliant on me and the actions I'm willing to take and the knowledge I'm willing to learn from that. Let's use that as a different perspective.
Yeah, and even assuming that was a good fit for you.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
It's just like I'm on a way. I have completely changed my life in the last 18 months, probably last 2 years. Weight wise, mental health. Like, I'm mentally healthy, physically, I'm strong. Lost a lot of weight, watching my calories, all those things. But if I translate that to the business world, I did all that. I've talked to coaches. I've met with coaches. I met with one today, this morning, actually, before I called you. Really? I liked his vibe. I liked his energy. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to listen to you. I don't necessarily agree. The conversation was this. Hey, you're at 2,200 calories a day. I want to jump you up to 3,800. I said, that's a lot. I haven't earned that right. I know I have a food habit issue. I know I'm addicted to food. I have to watch that. And he's like, okay, but this is the information I'm giving you. I said, that's great. I'm going to take it, but I'm going to, because I'm aware enough that I know who I am. And as a business owner, when you talk to these coaches, coaching is so important. I'm not here to say not get a coach. Like, I want to make that very clear. Like, I'm a coach as well. I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying in this whole conversation is, you guys need to, in my opinion, you guys got to reel back a little bit. There's a fuck ton of shit, and you're really good at what you're doing, but you said something important that I love. I'm going to put a phrase out here because in my mind it makes sense. Like, you see these cats do a plan, okay? And they let's say there's 12 chapters in your sales course for them. Like, hey, if you do these 12 things, you're going to be successful. Well, the normal human, because this is humaning, skim reads everything. Most people at some point, especially business owners, we're fast. We're very fast thinkers.
Yeah.
We're going to skim.
You kind of have to be. There's too much information out there. And there's too much information for you not to skim some of it.
So you go to like maybe chapter 2 and 4. Well, when you hit 4, your income increases. And I've seen this with a lot of people, even my old employees that are running their own business now. And I'm so fucking proud of them too. But I get the phone call. It's like, hey, I'm stuck. Like, I'm not making a headway. They didn't do the 12. What they did is they hitched their wagon to what started bringing them money and didn't realize, hey, you're not going to own the wagon forever. You don't own your 1992 Ford Probe. You changed the car. It's the same thing. The world around you changes. And now it's even worse. This is where part of the social media is getting to you guys. Your customers are really, really aware of the business that they're hiring you for. Those salesmen, just my opinion, that's not going to work much further in existence with social media. Reason being is there's so much information out there now, it's completely saturated. Like,
Mm.
if you want to test this out, here's the test. When you're done listening to this podcast, because I want you to finish it, go have a conversation with your significant other or your friends. Talk about something that you would never normally talk about. Maybe it's football or it's hockey, something. And within 24 hours, your Instagram is going to start showing you ads. Your Facebook page is going to start showing you ads. I don't care how much you think you've locked your social media down. This is one thing in that big contract that no one ever reads, except for some of us read little bits of it, that there are key words. It's listening to you. Your phone is always listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Google. So whatever that conversation is, you're going to start to see it. So when you're talking about coaching, it's just so oversaturated. I mean, I would tell my customers, like, hey, watch us paint your house. We're going to do this. Then they're watching me do it. And I've had people say, well, why did I pay you $12,000? And my answer is pretty damn simple. Because I have the knowledge to know how to do it. And I'm going to climb 40 feet in the air and spray your house. You're more than welcome to come do it. But if you mess up my paint job, it's going to be twice as much because now I got to fix your air. It's very cocky, but that's just the truth of the matter. But at the end of the day, you when you're coaching, if you're buying a coaching program, okay, finish the goddamn program, please. Just finish it. I know that's hard, but you have to. And if something's working, that's great. But understand that the salesman, we'll use Nick May because he's extremely successful. He's built something on top of 4. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, because he knows that if you stop at 4, you plateaued and you're done. Mm-hmm. There's a full process to say. I mean, realistically, most business owners, like this cat that called me, they want to start a business. Then you make work for other people, right? You now have employees, so you know how to check off. Then you want to get enough business to where you're not on the job site, but maybe you're kind of slowly overseeing it. You're manager now. You're a manager, not really an owner. I know it sounds weird, but it's the truth of it. Then you start retiring, buying the Corvette, and that's a circle. But if you don't finish your sales, like I'm helping you salesmen out right now. If you don't finish that program, you don't go from starting a business to owning the Corvette. You're going to be stuck in either handing paychecks out or now managing your books. Because one of the biggest things I see, and one of my friends reached out to me recently. He was running $300,000, $400,000 business in New York a year. It doesn't sound like a lot of money for New York, but it's pretty good money. He forgot to pay his taxes, and he had a coach. And he's like, dude, and he's had to pay a plethora of taxes. And literally right now, he's working to pay taxes off for 3 years that weren't paid. Shame on him. Like, let's just be real. But as a business owner, those are things that are forgotten. And those little things you said at the beginning of this podcast, Chris, those will ruin your business. They will make you fail. I want to change that if I can. I know that they say businesses fail. If you try, I think you succeeded. But your success is you. Don't let anyone say what you felt. Like, I've had people write me on Instagram like, oh, Splash, you only made it 10 years or whatever, however many years you felt. I'm like, actually, no. Like, I didn't. Everything I put forward that I wanted to accomplish, I accomplished. But for mental, like I said, we'll talk about it. Like, I was addicted to work. That is why I retired. I had no idea what an addiction was. I mean, I have parents who are drug addicts. Like, I've seen addiction in real life. But when you hear the word addiction, you think of like drugs, sex, porn, theft, like those things. For me, I didn't realize until my best friend, my wife, told me, like, I don't know who you are. It's like, you wake up, you get on social media, you go to work, you come home, you get on social media. We don't even know who you are. And I really had to check in with myself, and I realized, like, wow, I am addicted to working. I didn't call my wife during the day to tell her I love her. I didn't stop by at her home. She didn't come to my job sites. I rarely talked to my kids. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I had to make that decision. My wife and my family, my kids and my dogs, or splash painting. It is an addiction to me. It is, I am a workaholic. I work more now, retired, doing different things. But the thing with this is now I've learned to set schedules. Like, hey, I'm going to do social media for 2 hours a day, then I'm done. Because honestly, don't tell the social media gods, but I really get bored of social media. It is extremely boring and time consuming. Even as the creator, it is. But
Funny.
it's true. And so there's so many I don't know if there's the right word for this, but there's so many pitfalls in being a business owner. Social media, in my opinion, though, is a huge one. You make friends. I mean, I've heard, I'm going a little bit different from what we're talking about, but I want to add to, because I know people who have lost relationships because their social media people are so much more important to them. The people they've never met before.
I mean, that sounds like the risk of celebrity, you get what you think is in touch with your audience that may be somewhat an illusion. They don't really love you. They don't really know you. You're basically their entertainer. You're their amusement, but you feel like, I owe everything to you. You made me who I am. But on a small scale, for some, everybody gets to be a celebrity on social media. So I'm sure that kind of the illusion of relationship can quickly substitute for complicated relationships, because there's always problems in real relationships. There's things you have to work through. There's you're working with another flawed individual. So, but depending on if you're getting negative comments all the time, your social media content and your status could be getting tons of rave reviews, and you don't hear the negative. You don't have to work with a relationship, not a real relationship. It's so one-sided. It's a stream. It's a one-sided stream. How's that? But yeah, I can see how that could substitute. We have a lot of things in our lives like that's how addictions start. Something substitutes for a real need that you have, and eventually you find out that it's not really meeting that need. But yeah, I want to mention something too, real quick, about before the social media thing is. We're talking about we're talking about like courses or some kind of education program or coaching. And I do think that the onus is on the coach or the education provider to show that you're achieving results. Okay. So anybody could string you along. Like, you did these 12 things. Well, you got to do 24. No, you didn't know you had to do 100. Well, you didn't really do it. That's how I was strung along in a whole religion system, waiting for evidence. Waiting for it. Well, you're never going to see it, didn't you know, until you die. Anyway, but some people could be strung along. So you do have to have evidence. You do have to have results incrementally. Otherwise, you do go to the next thing, and you keep going until you find what works, or you piece. Yeah, or you piece together.
You need to celebrate those results.
Look, but I would just say, like, if you're investing in a system that seems to show results, well, then invest in it. You don't have time to fragment your attention between 100 different things. But I would also say the onus is on the education provider to show that if you're doing the thing, that it really works. So I just want to throw that out there.
If a coach is listening to this right now, an educator, we'll just call them educator coaching. What would you tell them? Because I do believe that that's true. There are some coach, and you should know, like I said, you need to fill coaches out. When people call you after you've filled out their form, listen to them. Ask questions that matter to you, that you want to know. And read through the bullshit. It's hard. But like, what should coaches be doing? Should there be follow-up? Should there be, I like to say accountability on both ends. There should be accountability threshold, just like with any job. It doesn't matter what job you're in. There's thresholds that you get to, like level 6. And it's like, okay, hold on. How are we doing right now?
Right. Yeah. No, I love the accountability piece. I love saying, like, here's when you should be seeing these types of results. Mm-hmm. Don't ever, man, as a business owner or as a person, as a consumer, don't ever pay for something endlessly without results. That's foolishness. And that can make you feel like something's happening, but those are, even sometimes you'll be getting metrics on, like, oh, these seem to be working in this way. You may not be making money yet, but look at these other things. Careful of a couple words. It's a phrase called vanity metrics. And I've been in businesses that have fallen prey to vanity metrics, where you're paying somebody to do marketing. And they're, well, you just gotta wait. We got the branding out there. We got presence out there. We just gotta wait. You can be sold promises. Just gotta be shrewd and take responsibility for yourself and your business, like you are doing probably, and hold people accountable, like you're saying there. I think that's super important. But what I would say to salespeople, you don't need to BS as much as you BS. And you tell people how to BS, and you BS your customers yourself, because you're inflating your services and your worth so you can get more customers and more revenue so you can get to the next level, and you can show people how to do it. Ultimately, that doesn't make for a really satisfying company. Your employees aren't going to be satisfied if it's BS and your success is inflated. That just means everybody's trying to hold all the strings together to keep the thing from falling apart. Like, truly sell the stuff that you're really good at. You tell people if you're not a good fit for them. Otherwise, you're just attracting people who waste your time and tire kickers. Like, tell people no. Nick May was another person who used to say, when you start out in massive action in your company, then you move to focus. And during the focus stage, you know what you do really well and you focus on that. And big key here is you say no to the things you're not good at, or that kind of fragments your attention.
I love the word no. I fucking love the word no.
Yeah, we hate it when it's given to us.
No, I actually like when I'm told no,
okay.
For lots of reasons, but probably another 5-hour conversation. But no, Nick May is right on that. It's a key point. And back to what you said about no, if they're not a right fit, I'm an energy meditative person. Like, look, if that vibe's not right, don't vibe. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I promise you guys. The thing about the coaching is, and I'll say this as nice as I can, but if you don't like swear words, now's the time. Maybe pause for 30 seconds. Stop fucking telling people that they're going to make 7 figures. Stop telling people that they should be making 6 figures. You are a bunch of liars. I'm going to call you out on it. And the reason I know this is because I am a business owner. I know when there was a year that we made well over 600,000. I didn't bring that home. Let's make that very clear. But for you to tell people, yeah, I made 600,000. No, your business made 600,000.
Right.
You probably, if you're really good, if you were really, really well, and you're in a mid-level tax bracket area, you maybe made 180.
I think people know that. I think we have to tell them the difference between gross and net and real profit margins and stuff. What I'm seeing, even in the software that we provide, it's not a sell for it, but I mean, you can see your profitability on every job if you're doing it right. But you definitely pull reports every month and every year, and you should be talking to your team about those reports. You're probably pretty clear. And if you're not clear on what you're really bringing home, you kind of know what you have in your bank to spend. You kind of know when you're overspending. So what's the problem here? That people are telling other people's stories, because we're a community of believers. Business owners are believers. And that's that is hard to get underneath that for people, because your ego is so closely tied to your success. Even using the word failure. For me, I've not been a business owner. I don't like the word failure. I don't like failing. But it's a little bit easier for me when I talk about failing at a task or failing at a role, because I haven't failed as education engagement guy or whatever. Across the board, I know sometimes your ego's so wrapped up in your business, failure means, oh my gosh, my ego's eradicated too. Like, who am I? I get that. I get this problem. But you also you're developing so many blind spots by this believingness. I don't want to call it gullibility, because believing sounds better, but you have to be careful. So one of the things I would say to business owners, how do you start watching out for the crooks or people conning you, or maybe they have something good to offer, but they don't have as much good to offer as what they're BSing you on? How do you develop that? And I would say first, start being honest with yourself about what you make, what your goals are, what kind of progress you've had. Do you know what kind of progress you've made in the last 3 years? Because you probably should get a little bit more clear on that if you haven't. With all your hard work, with all your believing, with all your tricks, growth is still hard. And success is always going to be very difficult, especially for business owners. You have way more competitors probably than you realize. Getting a sale is difficult. At some point, it may feel easy, but man, even for people who I know people, business owners, as I look across the spectrum of all the businesses that I've seen at high levels, how are they actually doing? One year they would be like, oh my gosh, this is great. Look at all the money. Next year, they're doing half the revenue. And I'm talking about really good businesses, and most people, and they won't tell anybody that. I have a little bit of a privileged perspective in that
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of these things. I see behind the scenes on a lot of businesses. So I know for a fact owning a business is hard work, and it's not always easy, even with the right tricks and tools, because those get outmoded or new competitors come up or something changes. But another thing I think we need to be very real about is business owners do not deserve to succeed. Now, there's a little isolated phrase you can take out of context. But what I mean by that is you don't deserve to succeed any more than I deserve to succeed.
Yeah.
I can't blame my job or my government or my community or customers for my failure on everything. I
Yeah.
kind of have to take responsibility for my career. But just because you're a business owner does not mean you have a sacred right and a protected right to succeed. You have a right to try to succeed. And sometimes it is the fault of the government or something, but ultimately you took a chance. You knew what you should have known what the chances are. Most of the time we don't really fully weigh the risks, but
Yeah.
you should know. And you don't, nobody said, you're the face and voice of America, and if you fail, we all fail. No, matter of fact, the pool of business owners who fail is quite large, and yet everybody's still encouraging business ownership because we know we need you. We need you. That doesn't mean you deserve to succeed any more than the business. So I think those are things that, and I hear this. It's almost this entitlement when I hear people saying it's like it's not fair. I was lied to. Like, I thought that I own a business. I should be happy. My family should be happy. I should be making all this money. I should be. I should. And I'm like, really? Now I just see that prevalent mindset among business owners, and I think that's just it's hurtful to you first because you do have to fail a certain amount to succeed. You have to try. Trying involves failure and succeeding to in some measure, and we hope that tips over. And you have a lot of people rooting for you. You have a lot of people rooting for you. But when I look at a field of athletes doing some sport or running or whatever it is, none of them deserve it by virtue of having deserved it.
No, they
The one
fucking
who,
earned it because they trained 3 times a day and went and did it. And they
yeah,
learned how the mechanics of what their body needed to be able to do to
right.
get to that state of mind.
But one earned it.
One earned
One
it.
earned first
And the
place.
one that came in second, trust me, I've came in second a lot in a lot of races. The one that came in second goes and says, okay, it didn't work the way I wanted to. My shoe, I'm going to break this down mentally. Like, my shoe is a little tight. I shouldn't have worn that necklace. You will look at everything, but at the
Right.
end of the day, you're going to go back and be like, what can I do to be a better me?
And
You
at
and
the
I
end
have
of the day,
talked about
yeah,
this.
yeah,
One thing though, if I, it's funny. My wife and I'm not starting my business yet, but my wife and I had a conversation. Like, what would it look like? Like, what have you learned now in 20? And I think it's been 2 years now. January will be 2 years that you've shut your business down. I said, well, I've learned a lot, but I went and told this person that called me and said, hey, I need some help with some things. I said, first thing is, and this is probably one of the biggest things. I don't have like a 1A or a 1B, but this is one of those things is you're not an octopus. Most people that I know who have success now understand there's a lot, and this is where social media is a bitch to people. We don't know your background.
right,
We don't know your education.
right,
We don't know the tools and equipment you have to do the job. We don't know the knowledge that you have. So as coaches, we don't know that shit. We just don't.
right, right,
What I'm saying though as an octopus is that you have an idea, you started a business. Great. These are four positions you need to hire for, maybe more, maybe you will add or subtract it. One, you got to hire a tax person. Please. Like, if you're in a business and you're getting ready to start a business, or you have and haven't done these things, these are the number one things. I almost got in trouble with this, but I quickly got it resolved when it needed to be resolved. So again, personal experience helps, because someone could be like, wow, I should really check that. One, get a tax person. They're not that expensive. Okay.
yeah.
That's an employee. Like, these are all employees. Two, social media.
Oh, it's an employee. Okay,
These are
that's good.
employees that you hire. No, meaning like you hire a company, but
Okay,
in the
okay,
biz in the spectrum of splash painting, okay?
okay,
Splash painting is a paint business. We're doing six houses a week. One of my employees is my tax company. Is the
okay.
ADP. They do my payroll and they do my taxes. They did. But the reason I viewed them as an employee is because I had account for what I was paying for them. It's just like an employee. You're accounting for paying for them. They're not on an hourly. It's just a flat rate, but they know their job and they're getting it done. That's one employee. The second one is social media. And I know we're saying it's ruining your business. Uh-oh, we lost him. Let's see if he comes back. The reason I say Chris, his connection lost, but he should click that link and come back in. The reason I say social media is because social media, and especially for me, you cannot run both. You just can't. Okay, there we go.
My bad.
No, you're good. So
Miss a beat there. You said the social media is the last thing you said.
Social media is the second employee. I know we're talking about social media in a very
wow.
Is it ruining?
Flash?
But because this is why
Wow.
you have to be present or your competition will beat you. If you believe in what you're selling, if you believe in the service and goods that you're providing, you have to be on social media. I don't care if you're selling me an adult sippy cup, or you're selling me a paint project. You have to have some presence on social media. The problem
you surprised me with that there. That was a curve. I didn't expect us to go ahead. Keep going. The problem with
it is that it's a marketing strategy. People are going to social media. There's no more yellow book. Your grandma doesn't sit on a yellow book anymore. She pushes the seat forward to drive. And for those that are 40 or older, get that joke.
But I still almost missed it, and I'm 44.
But what I mean by that is social media. And again, I ran everything in my business because God does Splash have a huge ego. But I understand that now. But I would hire someone to do my social media. And what I mean by that is like going and taking videos. Don't disrupt your business. Don't have your employees doing it. Now, obviously, different jobs have different opportunities. Like I just was talking to this one company. So one of the things that I do now is I help people on the backside of their social media. I got hired by a company recently. We do 2 weeks. We do them in 2-work increments is the way I do it. And so theirs was a retail spot. Like it's a coffee shop. I'll be honest. It's a coffee shop. And so like their employees have a lot of downtime. I said, that's a great opportunity to take pictures and videos when you're making a sandwich. Tell your customer, especially a regular, like, hey, we're going to do a video of us making this croissant, peanut butter, avocado toast. Cool, do it. Like, that's where you empower your employees to be them. And I know you and I talked about, like, if you can be a better you, everyone else around you is a better them. And it's a huge thing. So
that's true. You
have your tax person. You have social media, which probably a long conversation since I surprised you. The third one is a coaching system.
Wow, that surprised me too, because I didn't know you'd end with that.
No, I will, and this is why. And my very first, when I get ready to launch my social media courses, the very first chapter is simply this. And I got shit from my wife when I said it, but I stand by it 100%. Nobody cares about your business. When you start a business, nobody cares. Everybody loves you. Everybody supports you. Caring is completely different because when you put your head down and that light goes off, your significant other, your kids, your best friend, everybody, they're not caring about it. You know who is though? You.
I love that. Let me just put in real quick. That's what I meant by you don't deserve to succeed in your business. Is there's nothing out there that's projecting on you the success that is your right, inalienable right. Mm-hmm. What you just said states it another way, and maybe a way that more people can understand is ultimately it's on you. We're succeeding in our own business and whatever, if we own it or not, it doesn't matter. It's on you, man. You've got to figure it. Yeah. And so it's very a lonely feeling probably.
And this is why I say coaches are important, that you should hire them as an employee. Right. Because you're a coach, you're paying them money. They're helping you build and what your vision of success is and what their vision of success is. They're helping you get there. But this person is there. They're the closest thing to caring about your business because their ego is I hired Chris Shank from Estimate Rocket to coach me. Mm-hmm. Chris Shank, when he goes to bed, is like, man, Splash isn't doing tomorrow I'm going to call him. I'm going to take him golfing. We're going to talk through that. I hope this makes sense. That is what I mean by the coach cares. He is an ego, an investment in you. Now your wife
Yeah.
and your husband, your kids, they have an investment. Hey, hurry and go make the money so you can take me to Disneyland. Hurry and make the money so I can go buy my G-Wagon.
The investments in the G-Wagon, exactly.
But does that make sense? Like, I think you and I have talked about this a few times. Like, I know it's surprising to me to say those things, but those 3 employees have to be employed in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I said an octopus has 8 arms. Those other ones are for you. That's the employees. I would hire someone who's really good at sales. If you're a good salesman, then you're a salesman. And one of the biggest weaknesses I see every salesperson have, and it's weird because I'll say business owner, not salesman. One weakness I see business owners have, which is I love the mindset of it. I know you got to run, and we'll pick this up in another conversation, but like we want to hold everything. We want to control everything. But the really good business owners that what society says they're succeeding, or you know that they're succeeding because you've met them in real life and you've seen the watches, the cars, what that is. They have a hiring team around him. Let's just Gary Vee. He's a brother from another mother. He has a team. He lets them be themselves. But what he is himself. He's not this washed out, oh, I have HR. Listen, it's hard. And everybody wants that feel good, like, oh, I work for this company. And things with contractors, will will it back into contractor space. We don't let our employees be themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the hardest things that I would coach anybody on in their realm is like, listen, let Susie, let Frederick, let Antonio, whoever it is, let them show you what they can do. Because what they're really doing is they're showing themselves that they're worth the money. Just as you as a business owner are showing yourself that you're worthy of, to capitalize what you said, you're worthy of succeeding. Because you're letting everyone else around you succeed. It's not you. Your name's always on it. Like, that was a hard thing for me to understand. Mm-hmm. But would you change anything of those 3 employees? Would you add anything to it?
Me? I just want to say, I just like your emphasis, because even though I think people should know, you're a thinker. You're not you probably remember pretty well, but you did not tell me what we were going to be talking about. You kind of give me the theme, but going into this, you wanted to think, you wanted to shape new practice and new ideas. And that's what communication is for you, that adventure of something happening. I feel the same way about it, about communication. And so the way you think about business too, when you're talking about, you're critiquing maybe some people's view of, or some of their coaching or some view of social media, that doesn't mean you don't like social media. That's my point is, while critiquing how some people view things about social media, you came back to say, no, but I think you should have it. It's one of the top things you should have in coaching. Let's critique what's happening in coaching and people's believism in coaching. And they also con that happens on the other side of it. But that should be one of your top employees. I love the switch. It wasn't a switch. It was a perceived switch. But what it was is, you're saying, like, you're just trying to refine how we come at these things and kind of like just adjust our approach, not dismiss them altogether. So I love that too. I mean, I'm a part of a software company, and there's a lot of options out there, a lot, and they all do a lot of the same things, not all the same things. Our goal is to differentiate ourselves, but it becomes too easy to tell people, oh, we do it all, and it's going to be easy, and you're not going to have any problems. And our technology has no limitations, and this and this and this and this. Over time, what we've learned is, man, if you're going to have a lot of people who are problem, they're going to be problem makers. Basically, they're going to be wanting things that you promised they'd have and they don't have. That's not their problem. You see them as the problem, but that's your problem for the way you sold people. So we're trying to focus more on telling people, like, we are a good fit for this range, whatever. We want people to actually use the software. So I guess my point is, we find ourselves in that salesperson role too. We are a small business trying to grow, so we have to be vigilant. But we also have to not BS people. And businesses don't have to BS people as much as they do, and they make more money for not doing that. So anyway, that's important. As far as what else I'd change in that, I definitely think from a software perspective, you can save on personnel costs, and you can save on some positions by using the right software.
That's my fourth one. I told you there was four when I started, even though there's
Oh,
eight
is that right?
arms. And I totally spaced off. But software is
Yeah.
software is another employee. Again,
Okay.
and is the contractor, we need to change our mindset on this. And it was hard for me. Now I know, like I said, if I were to run my business today, it'd be way different. I don't think people would even know that I own the business. I personally would probably not even manage anything other than taking phone calls for the bids. And then I'd eventually hand that off once I knew someone could take care of that. But the software is so important because it's a system in place. Every great business to success is ran off doing something a certain way. It's just like an athlete. You know, I for those that don't know, my brother's a 3-time Olympian. I love sports. I fucking love sports.
Wow.
And to watch a human, not like, he didn't make the Summer Olympics. That's what his niche was. He got asked to join the Winter Olympics and he went to 3 of them. Like, you know, this is like, we're kids from the street. We grew up in foster care, you know, running for our lives. Like, that's just what it was. Like, hey, there's a dumpster. Let's go in and eat out of it. Okay, cool. Now we got some fuel. Oh shit, the cops are chasing us. Let's run. Like, no shit. This was my childhood with my brother.
Wow.
But I say that to say, like, as an athlete, if you, like, he lost the gold medal by millimeters of the second here at Utah.
Wow.
Millimeters. And I was at the finish line when they took the silver. And I just remember that look. And he just says, like, I did it. He's like, I did it. My team, I did it. We did it. And I was just so proud of him. The next Olympics comes, he was hungrier. The next third Olympics comes, he made it on a fluke and he was hungrier. And I'm emphasizing the hungry is like, as a business owner, your body is like an athlete. Your body is that, but your business is like a body. You need to have people around you. You cannot do it. Hiring one coach, and I'm glad you said this, Chris, to do everything is not. There's not a one-stop shop. Look at Coke, look at Pepsi, look at Starbucks. I mean, I'm an ambassador now for Bucked Up. I looked at Bucked Up. I look at all these companies out there. The number one thing, like, of all the things that I see in the industries of being a business, even with you, I mean, I just had SM Rocket on my podcast, which we'll be releasing soon. There is a team because the head understands I cannot do it all. So take it from your boy Splash. It's still your business. Be a better you and employ people to be better thems so that you can have the freedom. That's why we started the business. But until you do that, you're not. And that's to wrap up this friend. Like, the end of the conversation was like, bro, you live in a smaller area. Let's reset your goals. You know, he's like, well, I need an extra $60,000 a year, something with his family, which I get. It's okay. There's some things you can do, but the thing with him is he was always on the job site every day. He wasn't hiring people. These are things his coaches weren't. Full circle here. His coaches weren't doing with him. They were just saying, hey, do this, put this marketing out on Facebook. And did they work? Yeah. But there's other things as a coach you need to understand. If you really do care about those people, yes, you're great at sales. That's what your job is. But you have to have the caring part because your ego's on the line of saying, hey, let's look at it. Because I can take a person who lives in a 20,000 county city and a 300,000 county city. Their income is going to be just as different as the amount of people in their sector or in their area because you don't have that many people. And honestly, for those that have never lived in a small city before, there's not a lot of money. So if you're less than 100,000 people and you're hiring your coach is saying you're going to make 7 figures, you better span out 6 area codes because you need that many people who have that much money. And last thing I'll say about social media is this. For the love of everything in the world, stop buying your followers. It's bullshit. And I'm going to tell you how I know. Because as a content creator I make money on my content. I was just in a meeting last week with a pretty big corporation, like they're known worldwide. And they said to me, well, hey, you don't have 100K on TikTok or on Instagram. Like straight conversation, Chris. You don't have 100,000 followers on Instagram. You have them on TikTok, but you need them on Instagram. I said, what number is it looking at? And they're like, well, we're looking at views. I said, okay. All right. And because it's the space, I know who the other people are that are in my space doing what I'm doing. I said, look, this person's videos, he has 100,000+ followers, is getting this many views. Look at my views. When I do post, I don't post that much anymore, but I'm getting back into it. You'll be seeing this face a lot more on social media. But when you're on there, we looked at the numbers. I had 38% more percentage-wise in views.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, it doesn't make sense. I said, the numbers don't number, do they? I said, that's how you know people are buying their shit. I said,
now, how long ago was this?
This like 2 weeks ago, a week ago.
So people who are ready to spend some real sponsorship dollars, most of them should be looking at that. You're saying they weren't, huh?
Well, they didn't understand, because in their mind, and again, this is just one of their employees. I'm not talking to the head, but like their marketing guy's like, well, we only really working with people who have 6 figures. That's what they said to me. I said, well, I have it on Instagram or on TikTok, not on Instagram. Like, well, we really are trying to. I said, look, I know who you guys are talking about. Like, it's a tool company. Like, I know who you're talking about. I'm not stupid. I said, but if you look at numbers, because they're looking at the number of people
right,
but following them.
It's kind of old school, because that algorithm's been beat now. People know how to buy the followers. It's a very simple thing. Most everybody in social media knows how to do it if they're trying to build an audience. You can buy your likes, you can buy or your followers, but you can't buy engagement necessarily.
Hell, I bought my check mark from Instagram for a very, very. I'm not going to tell people why, because you either do it or don't. But it was a security reason that I bought it for. Anytime you get over about 5,000 followers, you're going to get hacked. It's just just what it is. But Instagram and Facebook have been really good at protecting. I actually just got a letter that I can be blue check marked on TikTok. I wasn't aware of it. I just got to send some paperwork in. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like that. Let's be real. That's kind of gone away. Like that feel good. Like, hey, I have my blue check mark. But again, it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy and all that stuff. But
sure,
stop buying your followers. Okay, stop. If you're a coach, stop buying your followers.
Now let me challenge you real quick on that, Fletch. Are you sure if that's why should they stop it? If other people are doing it, it's a mechanism available to them. It gets them to other things. It gets them to new opportunities. Why would you say stop buying your followers?
Because one, when the biggest thing is you're going to disappoint yourself. So most companies, let's use Bucked Up for an example. So I'm an ambassador for Bucked Up. It's a local company here in Utah. They do pre-workouts and stuff like that. If you go to Bucked Up and they look at you and say, hey, and most of these companies, Chris, I know you wouldn't think this because of what you do, but this is the way most companies do. Like, oh, you have 15,000 followers? Cool, we'll sign you up. Okay, Awesome. Where you fail yourself, this is why, because you're going to fail yourself. You're not going to fail the company. You're going to fail yourself. You bought these followers. Now you get 10% kickback on everything you sell for Bucked Up. Example. Okay? Your followers aren't real. You've not engaged with them. You just made yourself look good. So that first month, this is where I'm so glad you asked this question. This is exactly where this kicks you in the ass. The very first month of you doing that, you like, man, I got 10,000 followers. I have 200 views, or I got 10 million views on this video. Like, I'm kicking ass. Great, you are. When you go to promote that item, and then a month later, Bucked Up says, you sold 7. Here's $6.
Yeah, and that's kind of a sample of how a lot of people are setting themselves up for failure, saying, hey, you're buying this thing, or you're getting into this thing, and it looks great, but it's inflated. It's an inflated marker, or it's an inflated signal that it doesn't really represent where you're at, what your outcomes could possibly be. So that's the danger. I asked that question intentionally because I know it works for some to some degree, but I think it's helpful to know how it stops working. Because a lot of times it's like, well, if you have to buy followers to get to the next stage, and then you can build your audience from there. Well, I don't know if I would say it sounds unethical. I think mostly it's are you setting yourself up for more failure in the future? Have you really thought this through? That's the big key. It's thinking it out 2 or 3 steps down further, and not just kind of saying and announcing that the next step is immoral or unethical when it's not really. It's not.
No,
Who
I
cares?
don't.
They do
I
that.
don't. I don't say that. I
I'm not
don't
saying you say it,
say.
but
I don't say that to say like, "F you, you surpass me in followers." I say that because you. All right, let's be transparent here. You are fucking up the whole point of social media content creation.
yeah.
And the number looks good on you. Trust me, I chase numbers until once I got to 5,000 followers, I was overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, I don't even know who you all are. I don't. I mean, I get people, we talked about fame. I get people that come up to me sometimes. I mean, the weirdest place was on a cruise ship. Someone's like, hey, what's up, Splash? How you doing? I'm like, hello? Like, oh, this is so-and-so. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, nice to meet you. I knew who it was, but he never showed his face. I just like, he showed pictures of him like welding. He was a welder. But you're hurting yourself, but then you're hurting your friends who are on social media. Like you all have groupies. I have my groupies. Like I know that. But when the opportunity comes to make money, because a lot of people, I get it. Hey, dude, how much money did you get for doing a collab with Graco? Well, frankly, that's none of your business. But you're way oversaturating it in the sense of like you don't. You said it right. That you're just setting yourself up for failure because when you look at the numbers, I mean, I personally do not do percentage deals. Like Bucked Up has it, so I don't. I guess here's the difference. I'm not leaning on Bucked Up to provide my income to pay my house payment. Fair? A lot of these people are leaning on that to where it can subside their income and they no longer have to work in the space of the business they're doing, that they're now famous enough to have enough followers. I want all the success for everyone. This is not me hating. This is me just saying there are stages in your career, business wise, or in your personality that you will set traps for yourself that you will intentionally fail. And that is one. If you keep organic, I mean, this is so funny. I just noticed this morning. I lost 500 followers because of a post I did last weekend. And I got some DMs from it. Some people posted about it. I got offered to go to the Sam Smith concert. Don't know much about him. I know who he is. It was a great concert. Like, great performance. Beautiful voice like an angel. It was very sexually hyped. It was very erotic. I know that they, them, have their pronoun. Like, I know all that now. And I post, and the DMs are just funny. And I'm like, wow, I actually lost 512 followers. Because every week I look at my stats because it's important. And I'm like, interesting. Like, that's cool. I don't care. Like, I don't feel anything about it anymore. But I do know, like, this conversation, Chris, no one had this 5 years ago when there was, hi, this is Splash every morning, and when I had that huge chip on my shoulder. So this, and I really do appreciate coming on last minute, but this podcast is like to like let that door open, like, hey, there's a lot of traps in there for you.
Right.
But they're really good if you know how to emphasize them and maybe not emphasize, but like utilize them properly.
Yeah,
so when I say don't buy your followers, you're just doing an injustice to you and to your friends, and you will not succeed if your goal is to be a full-time content creator making money. And if that is your goal, it's really boring. It is extremely boring because you record yourself nonstop and nothing looks right.
Yeah, I was going to say, what people don't realize, I don't think, is you watch some of these TikToks, whatever, and I like scanning through. I don't spend too much time, I don't think, on this stuff, but I create a little bit of content here and there. But you don't realize how many takes it took for some of these, because I'm like, oh my gosh, some of these videos that people post daily or almost daily, and all the pieces that go into that, I'm like, that would take hours.
They have a team.
That's their job. They're not in their houses doing something.
They have a coaching company that does all. I'm going to use the word coaching. They have a company that coaches them. I know one company. They're like $800 a month. They want me to send them 20 videos a month, and they'll do all the editing, and then they get a percentage of what my videos make on TikTok. Wow. So it's a business. Like, it's a great business. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you did a video a few days ago of a cigar and a watch, I think.
Oh, it was a
What
picture, but
would
yeah.
that take you like 2-3 times to just get it right? If you got it right the first time, great. But
I'm not.
like,
I'm not telling. No, but the truth is, yeah, it never does. You take it. You got to kind of reset up the
yeah,
thing. Yeah, and that was just a simple picture,
yeah.
but it gets more complex with videos and then music and then oh man, it's
Well, Chris, I know you got to run. I truly appreciate you last minute coming on. There's a lot
fun.
we can talk about. You know,
Yeah.
this platform's there for you. And to the listeners, listen, I'm not hating on any of you. I just want to bring awareness. I just want you to be aware, like, I want you to be successful, but I do agree with you 1000%, Chris. Like, you have to earn your success. The great
Mhm.
Kobe Bryant, I'll end on this. The great Kobe Bryant, the most gifted basketball player I've ever seen in my life. And yes, I saw Bird and Jordan play live. Said it right. I'm in the gym 3 times a day to you being in there once or twice. I'm always training harder to be a better player. Therefore, when I step on the court, my confidence tells me I'm a better player.
Hmm.
It's the same thing. Whatever your business is, be better, but surround yourself with other greatness that you define as greatness yourself, that you vibe with.
Mhm.
And if they're an employee, meaning that you're paying Estimate Rocket, you're paying a coach, you're paying ADP to do your taxes, start viewing them as employees, and you'll start to appreciate the money that's going out to them, and you'll get a bigger gain in return to help streamline your business in a successful manner. That's success for you, not for the other people around you who just don't care.
Well said. Well said.
So anything else before you got to run?
I think it's good. It's always good talking with you, Splash.
Nice. I love it, Chris. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on? I know you don't, you like post maybe once every 22 days, but your posts are
Yeah.
very insightful. Probably leaves the person like one, like, oh, that's what he, wait, 3 days later. Oh no, he meant it like this. No.
Honestly, like how much do I put? And honestly, my accounts are mostly private now,
Oh, that is
my
true. You
personal
did.
ones. But Estimate Rocket's always posting. You can find them out on Estimate Rocket. And I try to put some stuff out there. It's not really personalized, but it's always kind of a fine balance, isn't it? If it's not
You
it's not my
found it.
company's.
I'm just out here whoring myself on every platform. I just got on another platform a few days ago. My wife's like,
Oh,
really? I'm like,
the
it's out there.
Threads.
Why not? Oh, I'm on Threads. That got boring after like week 2.
Oh, dude. Oh, okay.
No, there's Stimulus. It's from the
Oh,
owners of they make Sticker Mule.
huh. Oh,
They,
Sticker Mule. Yeah, I
so
saw some
Sticker
stuff on
Mule
that.
has its own social media, which is called Stimulus. It's actually pretty fun. Like
No way.
I like the difference of Stimulus to the TikTok to the Instagram. It's so weird for me right now because I said I'm going to be on social media more. I've been doing a lot of videos. I have like over 400 hours of videos, which is so sad. I just deleted a lot
Wow.
of them, but um, I'll end on this. You got to take time away from social media. I know we're saying it's ruining, so we'll wrap it up like that. Don't let it ruin your business, but
Mm,
take time away. It's the healthiest thing I've ever done for myself. Your
mm,
followers, I think you should. In my opinion, I didn't do it this way, but I would coach you to do this. Say, hey, I'm going to be off social media for 2 weeks. I'll see you guys later. Just something. Because
yeah.
you're showing them the importance of you being away, and then they're going to be eager to see you back. It's just like when that series ends of Yellowstone and you're like left
Yeah.
hanging like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, they took a break.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yeah.
man. Well, hey, much love. I know you got to run. Thank you so much, and we will chat with you later.
All right, man. Talk soon.
All right,
Thanks.
peace out.